Mala, Yuck Mala! Welcome back, my friends, to the Cult Film Showdown. I am your host, 8th Dan Standu, and I am super happy to be joined by my good friends, and I've got Nick Boxer.
Greetings and salutations. Viva Arriba!
Viva! Yeah, I know. We get excited. Let's get excited right off the bat. And James Cotta.
I'm going to start chanting, Viva Adu, Viva Adu.
Viva Adu. Oh, yes. I feel like I should be like on a balcony waving to my fans, you know. Oh, wonderful. And then Jacob, and I forget your last name.
Well, I said Jacob Blatter.
Oh, Jacob Blatter, that's right.
But, I found out, I didn't know what a bladder was. I didn't know it's really not an appropriate last name. So I now that I know that, I'm not going to be Jacob Blatter. I've instead chosen a different new name. My first name is now Chris, so refer to me as Chris, please. And my last name is Peacock.
Chris Peacock. Oh, Chris Peacock. Okay, nice. Good stuff. Okay, yeah, it's really easy to lose track in a show like this now, we have two choices. So we are talking about Evel Knievel's starring vehicle, haha, Viva Knievel, and so we can, James, your idea, 85 minutes of fame.
That's right, 85 minutes of fame. The idea being that these are all films that feature someone who's famous for something besides acting. So in the case of Evel Knievel, very famous for hurling himself across chasms at a great speed, which in the 1970s was a job.
That's right.
In this film, can't we rename it 85 Minutes of Shame?
Well,
it's I guess that's what's open for debate for the next
however long it takes us to talk about it. All right. And speaking of talking about it, it's now time for Nick to describe Captain America. I mean Viva Knievel.
Yeah, I had to look up to make sure the bike wasn't the same in Red Brown Captain America too. Yeah, this is a starring vehicle for Evel Knievel. The hanger that they put this movie on is a plot that has Leslie Nielsen recruiting Evel Knievel's protege to get Evel Knievel to come down to Mexico so they can kill him and smuggle, I think it was $50 million of drugs back with his body and his trucks. Now, if that sounds at all confusing or a poor plan, don't worry about it, because the rest of this movie, we're going to be paying attention to his mechanic, Evel Knievel's mechanic, and his estranged son.
Not just a mechanic, freaking Gene Kelly as his mechanic.
Yes. In the perhaps single worst piece of casting in history, Gene Kelly as his liquored up mechanic.
There is also a shallow love interest inserted in this film for no apparent reason. Evel courts a journalist of some kind who has the money to helicopter in for his events. I don't know. Yeah, if this plot sounds at all, or this summary sounds at all disjointed and not making a lot of sense, you'll get the sense of this movie. This is, just Evel Knievel on a big screen, and that's all they needed to fill out this time, because wow, no sense.
Yeah, I described in my notes I described the plot as basically a Scooby-Doo. It's about the depth.
There's so many subplots to this thing and so many characters that it's just amazing. Like it's really, and this This
I
is
got
one
excited
hell
when
of an
I saw
impressive.
Red Buttons, but he's gone after the first 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
he's there for like
I
the
love
half
Red
hour or
Buttons.
so.
But he
Yeah.
actually has the best acting moment in the whole thing. Like he's the one where it's just like, damn, Red Buttons, way to go. It's a shame that you had to leave.
Well, he played a dick. He played a total dick, which is against Red Buttons, cast against type, and that's not what you think of as Red Buttons. I mean, but it is one impressive cast. Like, there's one thing you can say about this movie. I mean, it's $5 million budget and equivalent of $20 million today, 21 million in that range. But the cast is super impressive. Like you mentioned, Gene Kelly and Lauren Hutton and Cameron Mitchell.
They completely throw away Dabney Coleman.
Dabney Coleman,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. The interesting thing, though, that I would question is
Leslie
that
Nielsen.
was this impressive in the 70s, or was Gene Kelly just really desperate for work? Because it feels
No,
like
it's
Gene
still
Kelly
impressive.
and Red Buttons, like these guys might have just been itching for work.
I mean, Red Buttons. I think he actually knew Knievel, like because I watched the Evel Knievel. What do you call it? The Dean Martin roast, and Red Buttons is on that as well. And so I think they might have been buddies or something. I mean, Red Buttons he wasn't giant, but I mean,
Did you ever? It was the Dean Martin roast. Did you ever actually see them on screen together? Because there's a good chance those jokes were just generic ones that were done, and and later cut together. Because that's what they did with the Dean Martin roast.
That is awesome.
Was constant. Every time you see somebody laughing, it's probably from some other joke at some other time, and like they were constantly like having people roast people that weren't there, and then cut them together and all this stuff. Like it was crazy.
I mean, the jokes are about Evel Knievel, but as you mentioned, there was something as I was watching it that it didn't seem to show Evel's reaction shots at any time at the right times. Anyway, I mean, let's remember that Gene Kelly is only 3 years away from making Xanadu, so that probably tells you where he's at. But we can't forget the amazing. Some might even call it stunt casting of Cameron Mitchell as the villain, as the heavy.
The villain, yeah, like villain is a little strong, really.
The heavy. He's the cutthroat one. He's the one that's got to pull the trigger and try to kill Evel Knievel.
And
that's
does a great job. I mean, I felt like the actual the person who was closest to a villain was Dabney Coleman. When it was just like, oh right, you gotta make Gene Kelly's character go away, and it's just like, no problem, I'm ready. But in his 30 and a half seconds of screen time.
Lauren Hutton was pretty big at the time when she was in this. She was a pretty big star.
Yeah, I mean, Lauren Hutton's character is pretty odd in this.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that the elephant in the room for the love story with Lauren Hutton is that Knievel had been married for 18 years and had 3 children at this point, which is never mentioned in the film. Evel is playing himself.
That would have gotten in the way.
Evel's playing himself. At this time is not like an origin story or anything. He's at that time, and Evel in the public eye was a really big family man. Robbie was in the show. Like he always had his family out for the interviews, and then it becomes this awkward love story.
But it is said to be I mean, it was never meant to be a biopic. Like he's playing himself, but it is a fictional story, and it always was intended to be. I mean, what got me about this was that he was 38 years old when he made this, because he looks in his 60s.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was not ready to hear that.
At the end of his career, so yeah.
I was going to complain about the age difference between Evel and Lauren Hutton, and there's like 2 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like
this is like a May-December thing, and it's like a May and later May. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, the road has owned him. That guy has lived a hard life, no question about it. Yeah, no. And the thing about this movie is, I mean, we called the last film by Thor a vanity project. Like, see, not every film this season. The concept, the 85 minutes of fame. Not every single film is actually a vanity project. Like some of them were, the people got cast because somebody was trying to cash in on them, but it's not that they necessarily had the power. This is even more of a vanity project than the last film. Because in this film, don't get me wrong, Thor wanted you to know that he was the biggest and smartest and strongest and all that. But this film is Evel Knievel trying to like control his image as the ultimate nice guy, family man, most moral, anti-drug, clean living, honest, just like the perfect human being, which makes it like the most incredible. That's to me the most incredible thing about the film is because Evel Knievel had his demons, to say the least.
To say the least, yeah, because he got put in jail about 6 months after the release of this movie.
4 months after this film came out, there was an author one of the guys who co-promoted one of his jumps, the Snake Canyon jump, I believe, this most famous one that he was supposed to jump over with a rocket tied to him, and it didn't happen. And Vince McMahon was one of the co-promoters, and the other co-promoter wrote this book, and in it he talks about what a jerk he is, and he cheats on his wife, and how he's into drugs. And so Evel Knievel got on a plane at the time with 2 broken arms and some friends, and took an aluminum baseball bat to this guy in a parking lot 4 months after this film came out, which completely ruined its international distribution. And so that's why when you go to the Wikipedia page, for the first sentence is Evel Knievel was a showman, stuntman, and convicted criminal. That's the open line.
It's the weirdest thing for me is that this actually, it doesn't feel like a vanity project to me. Just after watching it, what it feels like is a studio project where it's just like, hey, Evel Knievel's kind of big. We should find a way to shoehorn him into a movie so that we can sell tickets.
Well, Stan, you are 100% right, because this is a Irwin Allen picture. He took his name off it, but it has all the the earmarks of Irwin Allen. Yes, it's shallow and like that, but yeah, Irwin Allen did that with the disaster films and like that. Get a bunch of stars, throw them in, and
Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, things like that.
Nothing deep. So I think just writing it off as a vanity project, I think it's a mistake.
I think Evel had so much control over this and portraying the image and wanting to do this. I believe that this was done as a favor to him. And certainly most of the people in there, like Frank Gifford, were a favor to him. I don't know. I can add. Go ahead. 1971, they already had a film with him starring George Hamilton. In 1974, they did a TV pilot with Sam Elliott playing him. So, they'd already done films on him to cash in on him. Like, that had already happened. So this film, the fact that it stars him and he's, like I say, portraying himself as the most perfect man ever, to me, that's, I'm sure it's a vanity project, the ultimate vanity project.
Yeah, I think it's both. I don't think it's the reason that this is in the season is because this is the movie that gave me the idea for this season. Because I had watched a documentary about Evel Knievel, and they mentioned that this is just it's considered one of the worst movies ever made. And part of it is that Evel Knievel's not convincing playing himself. But you mentioned the George Hamilton. Evel was unhappy with that film. He had licensed the rights to his life, and they made the film with George Hamilton, and he just wasn't happy with it. So this is an opportunity for him to set the record straight, because you're right that the picture that the public has was incredibly important to Evel Knievel, and he had this image, and you see during the film how many times they tell you how expensive his stuff is. That is very much part of him as a person. That all the stuff is $7 million, and this truck is $2 million, and this is a custom that.
It's the thing is, it's almost impossible if you weren't there to understand how big. I was trying to think of a modern day equivalent to how huge this guy was. At the time of the at one point in time, he was on of the 20 most watched sporting events of all time. he was in the number one spot and 4 other times on the list. Like trying to like Tiger Woods, someone like that, you know.
Tony Hawk might be like the, but
maybe.
even that, like
I don't think it's as big. Yeah. I mean, everybody had toys. I had an Evel Knievel toy bike. Everybody did, you know, like his toys, which is why, I mean, he's spending all that money. In 1980, he files for bankruptcy because the lawsuit, he never paid the guy a dime, but he lost $13 million to the author of that book for beating him up. Yeah. And he lost all his sponsorship deals and his toy deals and all this stuff. And of course, he just kept spending because he's Evel Knievel, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's the guy was something. I think his most famous quote is he was asked by, I think it was Jim Rome, who asked him, he's like, you know, the Snake Canyon, what do you think your odds were? And he's like, well, 50-50. And he's like, well, it's a 50-50. Why are you going to do it if there's a chance that you're going to die? And his quote was, you know who the hell I am? And that to me sums up the guy. Like the crash in this thing, the one that's not him, that's actually him. Like that was his 1975 crash in Wembley, where there's like his last jump, obviously. And he survived, but I mean, he would have been 36 at the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a hell of a tumble. You know, I do like that. And the other thing is this film, like whenever there was a stunt driver, which was most of the time, or stuntman for him, the guy was in much better shape, much skinnier and whatever. And I'm sure that was Evel's decision. Like, make me look good. Don't get somebody whose body looks like mine.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's actually not a lot to talk about when it comes to the movie. Because
we spent this entire time discussing the man rather than what we actually saw on the screen.
Because I feel like the rest of the movie is just so paint by numbers. Like you go into your movie writing factory and say like, hey, I've got Evel Knievel, make me a story that makes him a hero and makes sense for Evel Knievel. And it's just I think
watching paint is definitely the way I described this movie.
Yeah, that's a perfect. There's a John Badham, I think 2015 movie done for TNT that's like a biopic. That one's probably good. It's on YouTube. I might watch that afterwards. Clean my palate from this thing because other than the stunts and the occasional riding of the motorbikes and some cool stuff happening there, everything else is incredibly boring.
Not like oversell this. There are 2 jumps in this entire thing.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a shocking shockingly low amount of action for an action movie.
Yeah, such a good movie to be done with a guy in a stunt bike.
And
you think
the where they do an old trick that he used to do of a guy jumping over a motorcycle.
Yeah, he used to do that when he was young. He was the guy who would jump over, who would stand there and do the splits and jump. And in this case, he was the guy on the motorbike, and the younger guy did it.
But other than that, the action in this film is not good.
No. There's a car chase. Come on, there's a motorbike versus semi truck car chase that had me wondering how the hell is this going to work.
And it didn't.
Well, he had to get creative. He had to Evel Knievel that bad boy.
All right. Well, I'm good to go to scoring.
All right. In our search for the ultimate B movie, we rate each film in 5 categories. None of those categories is objective quality. The first one, though, is called Schlock Appeal, and we start with Stan.
I was really shocked to find out that this one was actually a theatrical release, because to me, this felt like a TV movie all the way. It just felt like, you know, we're getting a bunch of... It's like Love Boat with Evel Knievel.
Oh, man, I wonder if he was ever on Love Boat. I'm looking that up right now. There's a chance.
Yeah. Because it just feels so TV, and all I could think of while I was watching it was Captain America and how TV that was, and of course it was on TV, and this just felt the same way. There's no swearing, there's no nothing to it, and so it wasn't schlocky. It was just there, and I can only give it a 3.
I think just the presence of Evel Knievel gives it a 3. I will bump it up one more for the presence of the tremendously impractical superbike.
That was really impractical.
So I'm up to a 4.
I'm back down to a 2. It's just not schlocky. It's too slick a Hollywood production. There's nothing schlocky. There's bad, but there's not schlocky.
I'll be a bit more charitable because it is. I think if you were having a bunch of people over and you were going to put in a movie that like, oh, this is a silly thing that have in the background. It's Evel Knievel, and he's making speeches and he's helping out the kids. He's delivering his own action figures to orphans. At one point,
I think stunt drivers sneaking into orphanages at night wouldn't play.
We might make him back to that in a different category. 5 though. I'm not gonna shoot the moon on this one. More heart than budget. And you said a $5 million budget,
which is $21 million in today's money.
Given the fact that really, like, you could use Evel's stuff, you could use his truck, you could use his bikes. I mean, really, building or just remaking his bikes wouldn't cost that much money. I think most of the cost would actually just be the people that you filled out around Evel. And it's so, like, there's a couple of jumps, nothing spectacular. Like we said, there's next to no action, and I don't even feel like Evel wants to be there half the time. So Gene certainly doesn't. Honestly, yeah, 4.
Yeah, no. Everyone in this is a paycheck player. I'll go up to a 2 just because I do think Evel had something to say here. I mean, hell, even the credited director didn't show up. Irwin Allen had to do all the work behind the scenes. So yeah, 2.
Like, one thing for me that this movie does is it tries to have heart. Like the story about the estranged kid and the alcoholic father, like it's trying to have a lot of heart.
That's fake heart. That's just bullshit.
Yeah, I know
Hollywood
it is.
heart.
I know it is. So let me finish. It's trying to have heart. I mean, Evel Knievel just being such a nice guy and just trying to have heart, and it's him like I say, it's him controlling his image. I think he worked hard on this movie to control his image. And it's all phony as hell. So, 1.
Drop me down to a 2, actually. That argument made sense. It's all forced.
I think that I'll say I'll be a bit more charitable and go with 3. Which doesn't seem that charitable, but I think, and most of that actually is for the extensive anti-drug metaphor that Evel tells in front of the crowd.
The speech, again, so phony. What was it? If you, I come to the Indy 500 every year.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, I come to the Indy 500, and these guys, instead of filling their car with gas, they fill it with nitro, and then after 10 minutes they blow up. Well, that's what you're going to be like if you do drugs. You're going to fill your body with nitro, and then after about 5-10 years, you're going to blow up. Don't do drugs, kids.
I do believe Nancy Reagan may have learned all she knew about drugs from that.
It put me right off of nitrous. It made me wonder, like, what kind of drugs are you? It actually has all of the impact of one of those you have to make an anti-drug message because you've been convicted of drug possession.
Yeah, for sure. This is community service. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's Willie Nelson when you need him?
3's where I ended up there. What the fuck moments?
For me, the biggest what the fuck moment was it was Gene Kelly. It was, why is he here? Why is he the mechanic? and then at one point they refer to, like, when he's facing off against Red Buttons, and I think it was Red who says, "Get your gorilla off of me," and I'm like, has anybody ever referred to Gene Kelly as a gorilla before? I'm pretty sure that's a no. Otherwise, the only what the fuck was really, why am I watching this? Because it's a shame. I mean, like, you feel like it really should be interesting, and that it should have tons of them, but it feels like a TV movie. So I'm just gonna give it a 2.
I'll give it a 1 just for the hospital breakout, because there was obviously no reason for Evel Knievel to drive his bike into the hospital to get his friend.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But yeah, and maybe a little bit of that speech, because that speech is freaking insane. Jesse being a junkie, but displaying it in no way whatsoever throughout the film is a little bit weird. But that's it. It's just a little bit off. It's not WTF. So yeah, 1.
A 1. I think you described things that were not more than a 1. How about the fact that at one point he sneaks into the hospital to see Gene Kelly, and in order to do so, he takes like a paramedic's clothes. Like Evel Knievel, arguably the most famous man on the planet behind Muhammad Ali, would be completely unrecognizable if he was wearing a white suit instead.
And not just recognizable. He was in that hospital a day before.
Yes.
It's not like the people there were like, wouldn't be thinking of seeing Evel Knievel. Like, damn, wish I had been on shift there yesterday when Evel Knievel was in. Man, that orderly I've never seen before sure looks a lot like Evel Knievel. What a coincidence.
Oh my God.
Now, I was a little bit confused because I was sort of drifting off during this film at certain points. Now, was Gene Kelly actually on dope of some sort during this film, or was
that was going to be what I brought up next? Was that he was drugged by the Jesse character once?
Oh, yeah,
which was enough for him to become a crazy drug addict junkie for the rest of the film. Like,
I thought Dabney Coleman was in on it. Like, I thought that was the deal, that he was like keeping him drugged up.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that because it was. I also spaced out of bases.
Well, if you make a 7-hour movie, people spaced out.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the time. I'm just assuming from my enjoyment level that it was 7 hours.
Yeah, it felt like it, didn't it? Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of WTFs. Like I say, it's more just bad and boring. But there is a few in there, and they're pretty good. So I got a 4.
I think we spoke a bit about the Lauren Hutton romance. The structure of that romance is pretty messed up because they meet and basically have a debate about feminism where I guess he wins. She basically, it comes down to, like, she wants to be referred to as Ms. and he says, "Oh, you're one of them," and she said, "Oh, you're one of those."
Which
and then he
is the best line in the movie.
And then he uses what would now be referred to as negging. He basically just criticizes her until she falls in love with him. So that's a weird arc.
Was there ever less chemistry between two leads ever in the history of film than these two? Like, no, but there's no way you believe that these two would be into each other.
No, not at all.
I thought for a little while her and Gene Kelly were going to end up together. I thought that's where it was going.
Hey, I thought her and the kid might have a romance.
That seemed more likely.
She became quite maternal for the kid, and she is spending a lot of time with Gene Kelly. And I thought like, that actually would make sense of where this is going to go.
The scene where she lambasts both of them. Where she lays into both Evel and Gene Kelly for not being good. You're not a good father because you're never there and you're a drunk and you're making him look like a bad father, so you're not a good man either. Because you're being so.
I love that speech. I thought that's where the story was going, but it's never brought up again.
5. I'm going up to 5 on WTS based on that speech. her argument for him being a bad person is that he's too wonderful to the kid and making the father not look good.
And the reason the relationship between Gene Kelly and his son is that the kid's been away at boarding school. Gene Kelly's basically spent no time with him for the kid's entire life of 10 years because Gene Kelly's wife died in childbirth, and he blames the child, which is the darkest freaking moment of the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Like
did they
just
actually say
everywhere.
childbirth?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
you blame him for your wife's death, is what they say.
Okay, I actually just assumed she died in a motorcycle accident. That's why you freaked out when the kid got on a bike.
We never mentioned him sneaking much into the orphanage. How crazy that is.
I was going to come back to that because, yeah, at the very beginning, Evel sneaks into an orphanage to give his own action figures to all the kids. They clearly have met him before. He's not just like celebrity Evel Knievel. He's like their pal Evel. And at one point it's implied that he healed a crippled child. There's a kid who's on crutches.
Oh, yes.
Because of you,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
now do this, and he puts down the crutches.
Yes.
I
thought that was just a callback to something Evil did. Didn't he like injure himself and then throw away the crutch on TV?
Well,
or
yeah,
something?
Yes.
but that because he was able to do that, he inspired a child to be healed.
yeah. But I mean, like,
I'm up to a
the
6 now.
so the
I'm up
kid
to a
worked.
6.
The kid worked harder at his rehab. That's I don't. That doesn't.
Yeah, no, it was just a confidence move. It wasn't. He wasn't blessed. He was. Yeah.
No, he wasn't blessed, but Evel Knievel was a saint. He wants you to know that.
Oh, I don't question that Evel Knievel wants you to know that he was a saint, but I don't think that's what the fucking anyway.
The 6.
My last bit is just a little bit of business about the drug running plot is that they're going to get Evel into Mexico. They have created a duplicate of his trailer that they've loaded up with drugs, and they're going to kill Evel and then they're going to come back to the U.S. and no one's going to search it when you're like bringing the body of Evel Knievel back. That's the whole plan. It is never clear, aside from just a one line of we needed more time, why they needed to make an exact duplicate of the trailer, because it takes up an enormous amount of screen time. And I'm like, is it because at the end they're going to blow that up? And like they don't want to, like Evel doesn't want to imply that his own trailer's destroyed? Is it only because Evel doesn't want the idea that his own trailer has drugs in it at any point? Like there's no real reason why they spend about 20 minutes of screen time making this duplicate trailer.
There is no reason they have to get Evel Knievel. I don't think that drug enforcement really cares if you're bringing back the body of Evel Knievel. I think it's a poor plan from the start.
It seems that way. Yeah, it does seem that way. But it makes sense. I mean, if you want to
It
snag
would
$50
actually
million,
have some Mexicans in Mexico.
it does too. But if you want to sneak across $50 million and Evel Knievel's dead, I'm pretty sure they're not going to check his body at the borderline because he was
That's their plan.
the famous.
But they're going to check the truck.
That's the core of their plan right
But
there.
are
That
they?
they're putting
Like,
it-
do they
Are
really
they? Yeah.
like? Yeah.
I think he's so revered. The thought is that they're going to leave it alone because he's so revered.
And
especially
would
at
you
the time.
ship anybody's body across the border by land? I mean, he has to be going bad. You fly the body back.
Well, they embalmed him in
Why would you
10
throw him
minutes.
in the back of a semi?
I got no answer for that one.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm up to a 7. I don't. Anybody else want to adjust their scores there now?
You've convinced me that all makes perfect sense. I guess that's none of that's what the fuck. 7 for me as well. Memorable moments.
Honestly, like for me, I can almost guarantee that you could even mention in a year and say like, so Stan, what did you think of Evel Knievel? And I'm like, God, I've almost never watched anything with Evel Knievel, so I'll have to go and see. And you could be like, well, what about the movie that you watched? And I'd be like, I watched a movie with Evel Knievel. I don't feel like I'm gonna remember this one very much. 3.
I'm going with it too. I think I might remember this film like 3 or 4 years from now, and just assume I saw it, and it starred Elvis Presley. Um,
That's fair.
so yeah, I get my score. So I'm done.
Yeah, the jumps are sort of like, the crash is memorable, but it wasn't filmed for the film. Like I remember it vividly, and I always will. I remember it from before, and I remember it from this movie. It's incredibly vivid because it really was a hell of a thing, that crash, and the fact that he survived is unreal. In fact, he's interviewed not too long after that. He was one tough son of a gun, but it's not filmed for the film. I'll probably remember how pretty Lauren Hutton is too.
I think I'll carry more of this away, and part of it is just this, the juxtaposition of who Evel really was, and then like 100 minutes of him trying his damnedest to lock in that vision of who he was.
There's several documentaries on him. Which one did you watch? And by the way, the John Badham movie came out in 2004, which means he would have still been alive when that came out because he died in 2007. I said 2015. So which of the documentaries was it you watched?
Honestly, I would have to look up the name of it. It was just the documentary about Evel Knievel. All I remember.
Did it talk about his demons and his different things?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It was made after he passed away. So there's a lot of interview with his second wife, also his first wife. So it's a fairly broad.
Was he being evil?
That sounds right. To answer your earlier question, he did not do a Love Boat, but he did do a Bionic Woman.
Oh. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
How good is that when we finally do a season of TV shows, a sub-season, something.
Four for memorable for me, and the final category being crazy concept.
Well, you got the ponder the giant Bigfoot already.
I just, when it comes to crazy concept, in this case, this just feels like here's the thing. The only thing that I knew about Evel Knievel going into this movie was that he was a guy who jumped things and did that kind of thing, and that he was really big in the 70s, and I have a vague recollection of him. Knew nothing about him personally. All this is news to me. So when I go into this and I see this movie, this just feels like Hollywood churning the wheels to make a cookie cutter action movie that they can insert Evel Knievel in too.
Yeah, no, of course there's an Evel Knievel movie, and of course he stars in it. It's predictable. Yeah, Space Jam in the 70s. Yeah, 2.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the fact that this is the third Evel Knievel movie of the 70s, and it's the first one to star him. And this wasn't because, like I say, and it's because he wasn't happy with his portrayal. This isn't Howard Stern who's believes he can do it right. This is, and doesn't necessarily make himself look good in the movie all the times. This is a guy who makes himself. Yeah, that part is not crazy at all. This is a guy, like I say, trying to shape his public image as he tried to do his whole career. But that whole getting the drugs across the border plot, I cannot let go of the insanity of that. So when I attach that as the main plot, and then there's 400 subplots, I got to give this a 4.
I think, as Nick said, of course there's an Evel Knievel movie, and of course it co-stars Gene Kelly as a drunk who abandoned his child because his wife died in childbirth, and of course Leslie Nielsen is the bad guy. Actually, maybe that's okay. But of course when Leslie Nielsen dies, he does this rollover, but all they do is roll the camera. Like an old comedy.
I kept on expecting him to be funny because he's playing it totally straight. And I'm
Yeah,
watching this, and I just watched some Police Squad on YouTube, and it's like you totally expecting him. I'm like, I feel like I should be laughing, but
Well, that's the thing. Leslie Nielsen wasn't a comedic actor until kind of around this time.
Mhm.
It really was Airplane that made him a comedic actor.
well, Police Squad would have been first.
One of those two was first, he really was a serious actor prior to that, and kind of got stuck into being comedy after that. You've been quite an earnest actor. I think the rest of the pitch is weird. Like, I think it's because especially when the
Airplane was first. My bad.
Yeah, especially to make the goal of like making evil look good. Nothing else does. Like it doesn't actually accomplish that in most of the ways. I'm at a 6 for this one, and this film does get a -1 because it tips over that
7
cursed-
hours.
Boy, does it ever. Yeah.
It is over 95 minutes at 6. It's only like 6 hours 45. Like don't exaggerate. That gives it a final total of 31 out of 100, which ties it for second last in the Octagon.
I think it's fair to say
Wow.
we're all bigger fans of Evel Knievel than this movie.
Yeah, even Stan, who is completely unfamiliar with him, is a bigger fan of Evel Knievel than this movie.
Honestly, for me, the thing about this movie was that it just felt like a TV movie that wasn't crazy enough to that was just perfectly well done with the kind of people that you might expect in this kind of movie. Like when you compare this to Rock and Roll Nightmare that we just did, I mean, these are night and day in like the kind of movie. This is just a pat Hollywood piece. That one is batshit crazy. So I mean, that I think that's really it. Like it's not that I think it's a poorly made movie, other than it just seems really long. I think it's perfectly interesting. It's just not.
We did not have to debate whether this had a script.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, that's right.
We
know
know
it had a script.
Yes.
It just wasn't a good script.
Yeah, I don't know that Evel Knievel memorized his own lines, but it did have a script.
Oh, I mean, and I'm sure Evel Knievel could probably talk his way through the whole movie, no matter what.
Yeah. And his kid Robbie Knievel went on to become a stunt guy himself, trying to like match his father and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what a dumb move that was.
As a little throwback for the Cult Film fans that have been with us since the beginning, Robbie Knievel was one of the stuntmen in Ninja 3: The Domination.
Oh, that's great. Well, there is a mini series being made on his life that's shut down due to the pandemic situation, but we have that to look forward to someday.
Being Evil was the name of that documentary I watched. It's on the Prime.
The Prime.
All right. Well,
Wow.
I know that next episode. So now in this case, Chris Peacock, you've made a change to our movies. The next one up is now this change.
Yeah, originally I did Lila Ozato Destroyer, and I'm glad I switched it out because after I switched it out, I watched the film and it wouldn't have scored that great. I don't know how this next one will score, but I mean, Destroyer is a pretty standard slasher film. So I'm glad to be able to throw into the Octagon a film that, like, I'm not sure I've actually ever seen the full film. I think I've seen so many clips so many times that I thought I saw the full film. But thinking back, I'm like, did I ever sit down and watch this full thing? I know that our friend Mr. Kata there is Mr. Kata is very familiar with the film. I do believe.
Yep.
UHF with Weird Al Yankovic is the my choice to go into the Octagon next.
Well, I know that movie is completely different from Viva Knievel. There's no question about that.
No question there.
Yes. So I mean that's good. I mean, if we needed to cleanse our palate, then this is the way to do it. So
I think at least we'll be entertained.
we're gonna find something entertaining for sure. It'll be interesting to see how it scores, no doubt. Jim, business.
All right. Well, we mentioned the Octagon. This movie just entered the bottom of the Octagon.
clawed its way out of
What's
the bottom.
at the top of the octagon? You can find out by going to wetalkpodcast.com. The We Talk Podcast guys also have a Facebook and they have a Twitter. And we are on Instagram at the Cult Film Showdown.
Yeehaw, Cult Film
And please
Showdown.
subscribe to the show everywhere. We're also we're on YouTube. We're on your favorite podcast app.
That's right.
Hell, subscribe to us places we aren't.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's Cult without a K.
Let's do the letter game again. Okay. Let's not. Let's get ready for UHF next episode. So does anybody have any last thoughts about Evel Knievel?
Viva Knievel.
The song, I when that song came out in the opening credits, I was like, this film's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Like that
totally.
song gave me that song is some crazy
Love
there.
it. Love that song. And it's all downhill from there, unfortunately. But,
That song is so 70s though.
all
It's
right.
it's
like a porn
downhill.
song. It's like a
It's all
porn music song.
it's downhill, and then there's a little ramp,
Yeah.
and then there's a pile of lions,
And
then
then
it's
it's a crash. Then it completely crashes. So yeah, that's the way it
Yeah.
goes.
What about the time that he's being chased by that car and he goes and he turns a U-turn and the car turns a U-turn clearly in the middle of the road, and the next thing you know, Leslie Nielsen and everybody is flipping over and the car is exploding.
The explosion
Oh,
of the car,
love
the first explosion was so cheesy looking, and then of course the car's on fire in the next shot. That
Yeah,
was
exactly.
pretty
But also, I mean, the camera when it does the U-turn shows that you can see at least 6 feet of dirt, meaning that at the very least he's 6 feet away from the edge, minimum, and then he's over the edge. They fall over the edge. That's some bad filmmaking.
I
You
already
guys
closed
who
the
have seen
octagon.
the
so-
documentaries. Did
Hmm?
Evel jump lions?
No,
Because
but
that
he
just
doesn't.
strike me as more dangerous for the lions than him.
It really does.
that would get you in some trouble if you
Yeah,
if you
it really
failed
does.
that and landed on lions. It would be like,
Maybe, but not lots.
all right, let's finish talking about Evel Knievel. So, for Jim and for Chris and for Nick, I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and thanks for listening to the Cult Film Showdown.
The first name in excitement, the one and only Evel Knievel. Stars in his first motion picture, Viva Knievel.
You okay?
That was sweet.
Sweet.
I guess the exciting part is the jump, huh?
Evel Knievel. He puts his life on the line with every death-defying jump. The indestructible Evel in the excitement picture of the year, Viva Knievel. Also starring Gene Kelly,
Dad? I'm Tommy, your son.
Where the hell did you come from?
Lauren Hutton,
Well, I don't run with the pack. Never did, never will.
Red Buttons,
Better get rid of him before he gets you killed.
Eric Olson,
You got yourself a full-time job till school starts.
Leslie Nielsen, Cameron Mitchell, Albert Salmi.
Now that tire's got to go flat the instant that Knievel has completed his jump.
You saw it just happen.
Marjo Gortner,
Hey, Millard wants to kill you, and your buddy Will, too.
Why?
To take your body back to the United States as cover for about $50 million worth of cocaine.
Take this. That'll help even the odds.
Save my kid, partner.
Just say I love him.
the chase is on. And the action never stops. Evel Knievel bets his raw nerve and roaring wheels against impossible odds. Team Evel in a spectacular story of spine-tingling suspense.
I don't want to shoot your last jump. I don't want you to ever have a last jump.
That's the nicest thing you said to me since I first met you.